Greetings, true believers. What do you think of my t-shirt? Ain't it a nice t-shirt? I think I do like it. It feels appropriate, especially since I am doing a commentary on X-Men: The Last Stand. Now, before I begin my commentary, I just want to address the elephant in the room. I'm aware of all the shitty things that Brett Ratner has done over the years, and you bet I'm going to tear Brett Ratner and Bryan Singer a new one in this film. And think of this as a case of separating art from the artist. And I do think it's a very strange coincidence that I'm doing this with all the Rush Hour 4 drama, and I'm going to lend you in on a secret. When I first watched X-Men: The Last Stand in theaters, I did not know the director of the film directed the Rush Hour films. And to think, and I love Jackie Chan. But anyway, I'm going to set aside all this Rush Hour 4 and Me Too business and focus on X-Men: The Last Stand. And boy, do I got a lot to say about that film. But anyway, if you want to watch this commentary companion's video alongside X-Men: The Last Stand, this is where X-Men: The Last Stand is available to stream. Or if you're old-fashioned, you can watch it on a DVD or Blu-ray. Also, it's interesting to note how X-Men: The Last Stand is the first X-Men film to not have a video cassette release. What a coincidence. But anyway, sit back, relax, and you can either enjoy or get pissed off at X-Men: The Last Stand. To me, my X-Men. Welcome to Commentary Companions. I'm your host, Tony Garcia, and today I'm finally looking into X-Men: The Last Stand, or X-Men 3, or X3, however you put it. I usually call it X-Men: The Last Stand, but I guess for simplification, I'll just call it X-Men 3 for everyone's sakes. And X-Men 3 is notable for being the last in the original X-Men trilogy. And oh boy, whereas the first X-Men and X2 were great, this one is kind of divisive, and a lot of it hasn't aged well, and for certain reasons. But before I get into the controversy of everything and what caused Bryan Singer to not return, allow me to say some interesting facts. Now, X-Men 3 is notable for being one of the first to ever feature digital de-aging, in which older actors such as Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen were made to look younger. Like 20 years younger, which is totally insane. In fact, hold on. For the opening de-aging effect, Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen gave the visual effects experts pictures of themselves as younger men so that the computer program Lola could make them look younger. And like I said, X-Men 3 was the first film to ever use de-aging. And, oh boy, yeah, I can definitely tell its age. But I guess it's not terrible. And fun fact, the actor that plays Jean Grey's father is Adrian Huff, best known for voicing Nightcrawler in X-Men, the animated series. I didn't know this until I did my research. But it's actually kind of cool. Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? I'm sorry, I couldn't resist referencing the Monkees song. But, yeah, this was the first X-Men film I'd seen since the first film. I mean, I was 3 years old when I first watched X-Men in theaters, but I was basically 9 years old when I first saw X-Men: The Last Stand in theaters. Which is incredible, you know? And of course, I think it's even crazier that Stan Lee and Chris Claremont make cameo appearances. Oh, there's Stan in his second non-speaking cameo appearance for X-Men. I mean, that's marvelous. It's not like it could be the death of us all. Ooh, how ironic. 10 years ago, which would be 1996. Also, this scene where Warren Worthington II's, Warren's father pretty much finds out that his son, Warren, who is Angel, finds out that his son is a mutant. It's actually also another allegory for finding out that, his son is gay. That metaphor. Actually, I really do like these metaphors. Yeah. Here's Johnny! Yep, those are feathers. Yep, your son's a mutant, Warren. And yeah, this is finally the first live-action introduction of Angel, who is notable for being a founding member of the X-Men. Kind of a shame that he had to be introduced in the third film. But I guess better late than never, I guess. And of course, X-Men The Last Stand is notable for being loosely based on the Dark Phoenix saga and Gifted. I'll tell you into detail what each one, the significance of what the stories are like. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit hyped with the music composed by John Powell, who's also composed music for many DreamWorks animated films. Ain't that awesome? Also, X-Men The Last Stand is notable for being the first time in which the Danger Room is finally seen on screen, after the idea was abandoned in X-Men 2. But I guess it's a good way to compensate. And of course, I guess I'll address the elephant in the room that is pretty much why Bryan Singer didn't return. Now, this was some research that I didn't realize had happened during X-Men 2. That Alan Cumming, best known for playing Nightcrawler, had explained in his autobiography. Now, what I didn't know was that Bryan Singer was a full-blown drug addict, and his drug issues were pretty much plagued 20th Century Fox and the first two X-Men films. Now, in fact, he was addicted to painkillers and narcotics, and of course, there was an incident where Bryan Singer, who was reportedly under the influence of a narcotic, insisted on filming a dangerous stunt scene without a coordinator, which resulted in Hugh Jackman getting injured and bleeding on camera. And this resulted in Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, Sir Patrick Stewart, James Marsden, and Famke Janssen pretty much confronting him and doing a drug intervention in Bryan Singer's trailer. Sir Ian McKellen and Rebecca Romaine were unavailable because they weren't on set on that day. The cast gathered in Singer's trailer as pretty much an intervention for his drug use and erratic behavior, and partly to protest the studio's decision to side with Singer and send producer Tom DeSanto, who had argued for more safety concerns, back to L.A. And pretty much what happened next was, it's like Halle Berry pretty much told him, Halle Berry tried to tell him why he should really stop taking the drugs. She spoke movingly of people and family members she had known who had horrible drug issues. But the director didn't respond with as much grace. He was about as aggressive as my father. It's like Singer literally said to the actors, "You people are full of fucking shit." He continued his rant by telling the actors that none of them had ever made a decent film and they were lucky to be working with him. And, well, this was not quite the friendly response. The cast threatened to quit the movie if they fire Tom DeSanto. And, Halle Berry had had enough, and she said to him, and I quote, "You can kiss my black ass," and walked out. But eventually, the cast won, and Tom DeSanto stayed as producer, and filming was completed. But this made everything quite uncertain for the future of X-Men 3. However, if Bryan Singer directed X-Men 3, he had a script with collaborators Dan Harris and Michael Dougherty, and a treatment that was basically would have been fully the Dark Phoenix saga. Jean Grey would have returned with a new, more destructive personality called the Phoenix. She would be manipulated into joining the Hellfire Club by their telepathic leader, Emma Frost, who would have been played by Sigourney Weaver. And pretty much this version of Emma Frost would have been like a past flame for Charles Xavier. And in this Dark Phoenix storyline, a three-way battle occurs between the Hellfire Club, who want to take over the world, the X-Men, who want to save their friend and teammate, and Magneto's Brotherhood, who want the Phoenix for their own plans. At the end, to save everyone, Jean Kermit sewer slide. But her spirit lives on and transcends into a divine being, not unlike the Star Child in 2001: A Space Odyssey. And of course, X-Men 3 is notable for being the live-action on-screen debut of Beast in his full blue makeup after so long, after so much teasing. Of course, Hank technically appeared in X2, but I think of him as a different incarnation. And all I can say is Beast looks so great in this makeup, and Kelsey Grammer is so perfectly cast as the older, more seasoned Hank McCoy. And let me talk about the makeup. Now, Spectral Motion was responsible for the makeup to Beast. Tom Flouts was heavily involved in applying the makeup to actor Kelsey Grammer, and the makeup for Beast took around 3 hours to apply. But man, does it look great. He looks like he just came out of the comics. And I didn't even know that this was Kelsey Grammer, the voice of Stinky Pete in Toy Story 2. I feel like such a dunce for not recognizing his voice at first. And, yeah, but it's like Kelsey Grammer was so keen to play Beast that he agreed to do an audition. This was the first time that Grammer had auditioned in over 20 years. And now, here's what Thomas Flouts was known for working on prior and after working on X-Men: The Last Stand. I just gotta scroll and wait for the app to do its thing because, I'm pretty much looking it up everywhere. Now, beforehand, Thomas Flouts got his start working on Critters and also Beetlejuice and the Blob remake from 1988. And other stuff that he worked on was two episodes of Tales from the Crypt, a sculpting for Mortal Kombat from 1995, the first Mission Impossible film, Face Off. He was uncredited for those two. He also did painting for Kevin Yeager Productions on Starship Troopers. He did sculpting for puppeteering on Godzilla. He also did uncredited work for Mission Impossible 2. He worked on Monkey Bone. And he also did uncredited makeup work for Blade 2, so this wasn't the first time he had done makeup for a Marvel film. And he also did makeup work for Halloween Resurrection, Underworld, and he also worked with Spectral Motion on the first Hellboy film, and would return for Hellboy 2. And he also did uncredited makeup effects for Spider-Man 3, and also did makeup for Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. And he returned, like I said, for Hellboy 2, and he also worked on Land of the Lost and MacGruber. And after that, he also did makeup work for Sucker Punch, and also returned to the X-Men franchise for X-Men First Class. And he also did Keith's prosthetic makeup for the first Avengers movie, and worked on The Collection, which is a sequel to The Collector. He also did 2 episodes of makeup for Dexter and True Blood, respectively. And he also did makeup two episodes of Bones, and he did uncredited makeup for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, so he collaborated with Zack Snyder twice. And he also did makeup for several episodes of American Horror Story, and he also did makeup for The Disaster Artist, and he also did makeup for Captain Marvel, if you'd believe it. And he also did makeup for Zombieland Double Tap. And he also did painting for Bill and Ted Face the Music and prosthetic makeup for Borat subsequent movie film, the sequel to Borat. He also did makeup for horror films such as Old and Malignant. And he also did prosthetic makeup for American Crime Story. And he also did makeup for Morbius, but I probably couldn't tell. And yeah, he's also done makeup for many TV shows and such. It's honestly amazing the work that Tom Flouts has done for both movies and comic books. Also, I kind of like this visual gag of Storm's thoughts are all cloudy, and so she has to will the weather to make it all nice and sunny and pleasant. That's actually kind of funny. I also think it's kind of ironic. Now, one of the other reasons that Bryan Singer chose to not return for X-Men 3 was because he was interested in directing Superman Returns, which caused an escalation between him and Fox. I mean, Fox pretty much showed him the door and kicked him out. Security had to drag Bryan Singer out. Boy, that escalated quickly. And, it's like after Bryan Singer left to do Superman Returns. Well, yeah, that totally turned out well for everyone. Not. Brett Ratner was signed on to direct X-Men 3, and it's ironic because before he signed on to do X-Men 3. Ratner had spent years trying to make a brand new Superman film. And it's like, talk about a switcheroo. I'd rather not wonder what Brett Ratner's version of Superman would have been. Probably would have sucked like Rush Hour 3. But yeah, I love this reunion between Beast and Storm. And Professor X. It's very nice. Very nice. Now, X-Men The Last Stand is loosely based on the Dark Phoenix saga. And, Jean Grey became the Phoenix in Uncanny X-Men number 101, released on July 20th, 1976. The issue was written by Chris Claremont and illustrated by Dave Cockrum. This original storyline was known as the Phoenix Saga, which lasted from Uncanny X-Men issues number 101 to 108, lasting 8 issues, from October of 1976 to December of 1977. So yeah, I think this isn't the first time Logan met Beast. Uh-oh. Talk about bad timing. Now, X-Men 3 is also loosely based on the storyline Gifted. Gifted first debuted in Astonishing X-Men issues 1 through 6, published from 2004 to 2005. The series was written by Joss Whedon and illustrated by John Cassaday. The Gifted storyline is notable for being Joss Whedon's first major comic storyline for Marvel. His first collaboration with the company. If the timing is correct, I think Joss Whedon probably worked on this after wrapping up Angel and Serenity. And X-Men 3 is notable for being the first time Simon Kinberg ever wrote a script for the X-Men franchise. Kinberg has been a producer to the X-Men franchise since the first film. Of course, X-Men 3 is not the first time he ever wrote a script, which is interesting. I actually like this philosophical discussion between the mutants about the cure. That's very positive. Yep, mutant protesters. Well, protesters against the mutant cure. I have to specify that. And I love this visual gag of Fat just turning thin to make room for himself. He was played by 2 different actors for that joke. Exterminate, exterminate. Like Nike. Yep, and there's Pyro, played by the same actor from X2. Sorry, I'm just so magnetized by Ian McKellen's performance as Magneto. No pun intended on the magnetized pun. But yeah, Ian McKellen always has a presence that I really like. I mean, well, I'll show you my mark. Traumatize them back. Above a class 3. Ooh. Kind of like Caliban. And so this is pretty much the most bombastic scene. I mean, it starts simple with a, prison transfer. Apparently, also, Brett Ratner thought it would have been cliched to have a black president or a woman president. How did Mystique get captured? Oh, what I'd love to say to Trump. Oof. Cocky, are we? Yep, that's Dr. Rao. I recognize the actress. She was in Renfield, and she played Sal Maroni's wife in the Penguin series. I recognize her voice now. I really do like her voice. It's raspy, but it's also calm at the same time. And this is the on-screen debut of the character Leech, the most unfaithful-looking character ever among many other unfaithful-looking characters, because in the comics, Leech is less human-looking. He's got green skin, doesn't even have a nose, etc., etc. And that's actually a cool shot. It's like Beast's hand turns human. And Leech made his comic book debut in Uncanny X-Men number 179, created by Chris Claremont and John Romita Jr. in 1984. But I really do wish that he was more faithful looking with the green skin and no nose. Wasted opportunity, in my opinion. But I wonder if that was digital with his hand turning human-like. And I'll talk about Jean Grey soon. And oh man, there's Cyclops. Now, of course, James Marsden, who had played Cyclops since the first film, was okay with having minimal screen time because he also wanted to focus on his commitments to playing Perry White's son in Superman Returns, which I think is one of the dumbest career moves in my opinion because, man, I'm going to go into such a rant with the way they handled Scott Summers in the X-Men trilogy. I mean, I understand that people were starting to favor Hugh Jackman's Wolverine as so far. I mean, when I was a kid, I probably favored Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I totally get it, but Scott deserves so much better, especially since he's one of the founding members of the X-Men, and it's like he is supposed to be the leader of the X-Men. Stop, he said calmly. And I was like, I really hate the way they handled the way they handled Cyclops in X-Men 3. Like, I understand that people were starting to favor Hugh Jackman's Wolverine over James Marsden's Cyclops. I totally get that. Even I thought that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine was cooler than James Marsden's Cyclops. But, you know, it's like Cyclops deserved so much better. It's like, oh, my back. And it's like, yeah, we're at the nearly 25-minute mark, and now Jean Grey returns after supposedly dying. Fun fact, Jean Grey has died 15 times in the comics. Technically, the first time she died was in the original Phoenix Saga. Ooh, I see you grew your hair out, Jean. Yeah. A little thing called a phoenix, honey. And, oh man, it's like, yeah, this is supposed to be nice. I really want to, it's like, I'm looking back on this as a kid, and I felt disappointed that he didn't stay in the rest of the film. It's very annoying. It's like, you know what it'll do, baby. It's like, if only it had stayed like that. But sadly, it's like, oh, you lost a blinking contest. A staring contest. Hey kids, let's play a staring contest with Cyclops. Oh, Cyclops lost. Sorry, I'm making jokes. Smoochy smoochy. And, oh man, it's like Cyclops did not deserve to go out the way he did. It really angers me. It pisses me off so much how they killed off Cyclops before the 30-minute mark, after the 25-minute mark. I mean, Cyclops deserved so much better than what he got. He should have stayed in the film. He should have played a major role. He should have gotten a chance to actually mature and become the leader of the X-Men like he was born to be in the comics. I mean, X-Men, the animated series, did a much better job at portraying Cyclops as a mature leader, paired wonderfully with the voice performance of the late Norm Spencer. That's how much this means to me. It's like, and it really angers, and in retrospect, I am so pissed off with how they killed off Scott Summers in the film. He deserved so much better. He should have been the main character of the X-Men trilogy in general. Give him a Luke Skywalker kind of arc, where he starts out as a young, naive mutant boy who pretty much is trying to learn to mature and to be a hero. And by the third film, we have the satisfying conclusion of him being a confident leader with great camaraderie and a loving relationship with Jean Grey. But oh man, they botched it so badly. And apparently, Bryan Singer's version of X-Men 3 probably wouldn't have killed off Scott Summers, and probably would have had him be the mature leader he was meant to be. But oh man, they did Scott dirty, and it pisses me off so much in retrospect by today's standards. And I understand that James was okay with a minimal role, but come on, James, he deserves to have be bigger than Hugh Jackman, in my opinion. At least in an alternate universe, yeah, they could have done Scott Summers justice, and I really hate what they did to Cyclops in this version. I'm sorry if I'm ranting, but this rant needs to be done. And yeah, that's the best they can do. It's like show his floating sunglasses because Scott is dead. It's like it felt like a middle finger to Cyclops fans. I mean, yeah, I love Wolverine, but I understand why the Cyclops fans were so pissed off with the way they handled Cyclops. It was an insult, a complete insult to his character arc. He deserves so much better. I mean, he should have it would have made better sense if during the climax of X-Men: The Last Stand, if Scott was still alive. I mean, maybe he and Wolverine go together, and they pretty much see each other as brothers, like they respect each other, and they both understand that they have to mercy kill Jean Grey. It's like Wolverine distracts her, and then Scott is like, "I'm sorry, my love," and then he mercy kills Jean Grey. That would have been so much more poetic. Oh boy. Okay, I need to calm down. It's like this had been on my mind for months, and I really needed to get it off my chest. And yes, I suppose I may need to, when I uploaded this on YouTube, you can find when the rant occurs of how I believe they did Scott Summers how they did not do Scott Summers justice and kicked him in the nutsack. Ooh. Ooh. I'm so worked up. I did not expect to get so worked up about this, but I've really become such a comic book fan. Ooh boy, ooh boy, oh boy. Anyway, but anyway, a lot of X-Men: The Last Stand is loosely based on the Dark Phoenix saga. The Dark Phoenix saga consisted of a storyline collecting Uncanny X-Men number 129 through 138. 138 is pretty much the epilogue issue. So yeah, Dark Phoenix saga spanned 10 comic book issues. The entire Phoenix saga is basically spanned 3 or 4 years, if I'm... 4 years, from 1976 to 1980. And coincidentally... Kitty Pryde made her comic book debut in Uncanny X-Men number 129, which kicked off the Phoenix saga. Coincidence? And I think it's kind of funny how Kitty Pryde plays a big role in both the Dark Phoenix saga and the Gifted saga, and it feels appropriate that she plays a major role in X-Men: The Last Stand. But anyway, the Dark Phoenix saga was written by Chris Claremont and was instead illustrated by John Byrne, who was also a co-writer. Now, of course, the Dark Phoenix saga is not the first time that Chris Claremont and John Byrne had collaborated. Claremont and Byrne first collaborated on Marvel Premiere number 25, published in October of 1975. And I'll get to Kitty Pryde in a few minutes once I see her. Yep. And there's Angel, played by Ben Foster. I didn't even know this was the same guy who played the pierced guy in the original Punisher film. I mean, wow, talk about range. I didn't even recognize him without the piercings and such. It was crazy. You know what I mean? And now I realize, yep, there are his wings. Yep, those wings look pretty practical. Yep, and I really do wish that Angel had been in the first X-Men film. I understand that they probably weren't able to weren't able to feature Angel due to budgetary reasons, but come on, Angel is a founding member of the X-Men. I really do think Angel was done dirty in both X-Men: The Last Stand and X-Men Apocalypse. It's like I'll probably talk about my ranting about Angel in X-Men Apocalypse much later. He deserved so much better. Yep. Oh man, that looks so epic and grand. Yeah, that definitely looks CG, but it's not bad. Oh yeah, that's a good line right there. I'm not sure if Zach Penn or Simon Kinberg wrote that. Also, you'll notice Nightcrawler does not make an appearance, even though Nightcrawler voice actor Adrian Huff does. Actually, one of the reasons that Nightcrawler didn't make an appearance was because I think Alan Cumming hated the makeup, which is fair. I mean, it took 9 hours to apply. But also, they found a workaround behind that. They decided, well, you'll notice, actually, there's an X-Men video game that takes place between X2 and X-Men 3, which has Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Iceman as playable characters. And, well, the video game ends with Nightcrawler leaving the X-Men because he doesn't like having to be part of a violent team, and he'd rather live a life of peace. That's actually a good way to write him off. But pardon me, I need to look something up. Isn't that something? Was the X-Men video game? Hugh Jackman's first time voicing Wolverine. Come on, load faster. Ugh, technical difficulties, am I right? Ugh. Technology, isn't it great? The Multiple Man. Now, Multiple Man, who's usually a superhero, made his comic book debut in Giant Size Fantastic Four #4 in 1975, created by Len Wein, best known for co-creating the for Wolverine, of course. Oh man, I have so much to say about this version of Juggernaut, but I'll get to it later. Also, Vinnie Jones was cast as Juggernaut because after collaborating with Matthew Vaughn on Snatch. I think I got that right. Anyway, Juggernaut made his comic book debut in X-Men #12, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1965. Whoops. Yep. Toasty! And so we see, this is how Mystique's arc ends. Kind of anticlimactic. Also, Rebecca Romijn's screen time is minimal in this because of scheduling conflicts. That's what she and James had in common. James Marsden had in common. They both had scheduling conflicts. Ooh, that is so cold. And, yep. I'll say it's a shame. It's like Mystique definitely deserved better. And also, yes, X-Men, the official video game, was Hugh Jackman's first time voicing Wolverine in a video game. Now, budgeted at $210 million, X-Men The Last Stand was, at the time, the most expensive movie ever made, surpassing King Kong. The 2005 remake directed by Peter Jackson, which at the time cost $207 million. once again, loading. Loading. Oh, okay. Yeah, in a June 2009 interview, Bryan Singer admitted that he regretted declining to direct this movie in favor of Superman Returns, confessing that he realized his mistake before I was watching the third X-Men movie, during watching it, after watching it. For her dual role as Jean Grey and the Phoenix, Famke Janssen extensively researched dissociative identity disorders and split personalities to make her performance convincing and, yeah, I will give Famke Janssen credit. She is one of many actors in this film who is clearly carrying the film on her back. And it's like she's really putting maximum effort in a thankless task with a mediocre script that was way overstuffed. And I'm saying it's way overstuffed nicely. But she has to play a different version of Jean Grey that's different from her character in the first two films. And now she has to go fully corrupted. And she doesn't have a lot of material to work with. But you can tell that she's really doing her best. Although I must admit, Famke is much cuter with short hair instead of long hair. Is it weird that I think that? I'm sure I'm not the only one that thinks that. But, yeah, I could see why so many people like Hugh Jackman and Famke Janssen's chemistry. So I think the Phoenix personality is triggered by arousal. At least that's my theory. It's just a film theory. Ouchie. It's then that I discovered, oh yeah, Wolverine's healing factor. That would normally kill someone like me. Whoop. Oh my.
There is no Jean. There is only Phoenix.
Oh, wow. Now Logan is consenting? Is more once consenting? Oof. That's definitely Phoenix speaking. Okay, that's definitely Jean speaking. I wish we had seen more camaraderie scenes between Scott and Logan to really show that their relationship had evolved better. Okay, I better not think about it, otherwise I'm gonna get pissed off and start ranting. I'm Tony the happy nerd, not Tony the pissed off nerd.
Look at me!
It's like, you can tell Famke and Hugh are doing their best. Yep, and that's Phoenix taking over. Yep. Oof, that's gonna hurt. The idea of a cure developed by Kavita Rao beats interest in it, and the prominent roles played by Kitty Pryde and Colossus were inspired by Joss Whedon's Gifted. But yeah, the mutant cure plot was first introduced in the X-Men the Animated Series. Oh, sorry about the background noise. Now, Gambit was going to appear in this film as a love interest for Rogue and rival for Iceman, similar to how Kitty Pryde was Rogue's rival for Iceman's affections. He was cut due to the already large roster of characters. Keanu Reeves, Channing Tatum, and Josh Holloway were considered for the role. And but eventually they'd use Gambit later. But yeah, Gambit had such a convoluted history, but Tatum really wanted to, but yeah, this is an instance in which Channing Tatum really wanted to play Gambit since before X-Men Origins Wolverine. Uh-oh. Famous last words. Yeah, that's an understatement. Yep. Oh man, that's Juggernaut. And it's like, I'll get into the... Okay, you know what? I think I will get into the rant of how I hate what they did to Juggernaut in this movie. Now, first of all, they don't even mention that Juggernaut is related to Charles Xavier. In the comics, Juggernaut has legitimate beef with Charles Xavier, especially since Kane Marco is actually Charles Xavier's stepbrother. So they already have a pretty rivaling relationship. It's not a good relationship. And, of course, Kane Marco became the Juggernaut through magic. He's not a mutant. And I really hate that they turned him into a mutant for this one. I hate that he's not Charles's stepbrother. And I also do not like what they did to the suit. I mean, it's nice that they had an actor pretty much play him on set. It makes it more believable, but Juggernaut lives up to his namesake. I mean, he's a towering presence. I think he towers over the Hulk. He's a threat, a legitimate threat, and his dome helmet, which prevents him from his mind being read, which prevents him from being defeated by telepaths like Charles and Jean, is such an iconic helmet. And the practical helmet that they clearly made for him really doesn't do him justice. I mean, like I said in my review of Deadpool 2, I much favor the look of Juggernaut in that film over what we got with Vinnie Jones. But I do think it's funny that they brought back the Last Stand version of Juggernaut and pretty much brought the actor that played Dude from Free Guy to be the physical presence of Juggernaut. He really does make it believable, to his credit, and I actually like that and I'm willing to accept that the Last Stand version of Juggernaut is from a variant timeline, and it actually does work to Deadpool and Wolverine's credit, and his helmet does play a big role. So yeah, which is why I'm so willing to forgive that version. But the first time they did it, oh man, they botched Juggernaut so much. It really does. I really hate how they handled Juggernaut in this one. It's like I hate the suit so much. It looks like a gimp went to a rave. He's already scantily clad. It's like, shirt? What's a shirt? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Yeah. It's they really did Juggernaut dirty in this version. I really don't like it. And I was really shocked to know that Patrick Stewart had less than 1 hour of screen time as Charles Xavier. It's like, I remember seeing this in theaters, wondering, what the heck's going on, you know? I was confused. I mean, to be fair, I hadn't watched X2. Big mistakey. Uh-oh. You know it's bad when Charles is forced off his wheelchair. Uh-oh. House is going up. And Wolverine is feeling the effects. Ouch! But I do like that Jean's clothes are red as a nod to her Dark Phoenix suit. Sorry, it's just, I'm wondering how they filmed that. It looks really awesome. And yeah, the music is definitely carrying the film on its back as well. But this was really cool to see in theaters, with everything stopping in slow motion. She did. But I like that Charles gives him a peaceful smile as if to say, "It's gonna be okay, Logan." It makes his death bittersweet. And then it gets really weird later on with I didn't even know that Charles apparently had a twin brother in a coma earlier in the film, which I didn't know would play a much more significant role. Really shocks me. And so, the fall of Jean Grey is at hand. Gone is Jean Grey, and in her place is the Dark Phoenix. But yeah, they killed Charles before the 1 hour mark. But Halle Berry is very decent in this film, in my opinion. Now, Halle had initially decided not to reprise her role as Storm for this movie, citing lack of character development in the previous 2 installments and a tense relationship with Bryan Singer, as I mentioned earlier. However, after Singer's departure and suffering a major box office flop with Catwoman, Halle Berry agreed to return on the condition that her role be expanded. Consequently, in this movie, Storm replaces Cyclops and Professor Xavier as team leader of the X-Men, which is keeping with the comics, where for a time Storm served as team leader in Xavier's absence. Actually makes sense. And once again, she's really slaying with this what's the word for funerals? But yeah. This monologue that pays tribute to Charles. Throughout the movie, Storm and Callisto are constantly battling. In the comics, Storm and Callisto battled for leadership of Callisto's gang, the Morlocks. Now, of course, before Brett Ratner was brought on to direct, Matthew Vaughn was also would have directed X-Men 3, which would have been his directorial debut. But sadly, that never happened because the studios thought that Vaughn wasn't experienced enough. And the opening scene with the young angel trying to hack off his wings is one of the few legacies left by Matthew Vaughn. And I do like that X-Men 3 has Beast and Angel appear. It's like now the original X-Men team that was formed in 1963 now fully appears in this movie, though not all together. And yeah, after Bryan Singer saw the movie, he said he would have done it differently. He would have had a distraught Cyclops build the Danger Room to become better, as he felt the X-Men needed to be stronger and faster to have saved Jean. Also, he said he would have had Phoenix on a quest around the world, freeing trapped mutants and rescuing them. Also, yeah, this is the first time in which actor Elliot Page, back then known as Ellen Page, played Kitty Pryde, and so far, Page was the only actor to play Kitty Pryde more than once. Sumilla Key played Kitty Pryde in the first film, and Katie Stewart played Kitty Pryde in X2. And yeah, I do like Paige as Kitty Pryde, and it's nice that that he pretty much came back for X-Men Days of Future Past. And yeah, I do like this scene with Iceman and Kitty flirting, and the visual of 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 Bobby making his own ice skates. I just don't understand why Colossus didn't flirt with Kitty in the film, since they're usually a thing. I mean, their relationship is so complicated in the comics, and that's putting it lightly. Oof, Rogue is jelly. Don't feel bad, Rogue. There might be a Cajun mutant out there who likes to play cards who will make you feel special. Also, I like her green coat. That's a nice green coat. But yeah, Matthew Vaughn was originally hired in March 2005. Vaughn would have cast Kelsey Grammer as Beast and Vinnie Jones as Juggernaut, and also conceptualized several scenes for the movie. He got no farther, however, because family issues forced him to drop out of filming. Vaughn was also cautious of Fox wanting to rush production. He says, and I quote, "I didn't have the time to make the movie I wanted to make. I had a vision for how it should be, and I wanted to make sure I was making a movie as good as X-Men 2, and I knew there was no way that could be." I am glad that Kelsey Grammer's casting as Beast stayed, though. But yeah, prior to this movie's release, a laptop containing a rough copy of the movie was reported stolen on the 20th Century Fox lot in Los Angeles. While the footage was never leaked, all cars entering and exiting the studio were thoroughly searched for 1 week after the reported theft. As all of the actors and actresses had only signed for 2 movies, new contracts had to be brokered for all of them. Now, before Elliot Page was cast as Kitty Pryde, Summer Glau auditioned for the role of Kitty Pryde. She looked to Joss Whedon, who gave her a part in Firefly and Serenity, for advice because she knew he was a big X-Men fan. In fact, Whedon based the character of Buffy the Vampire Slayer on Kitty. Unaware that he had written and Glau was unaware that he had written issues of Astonishing X-Men for Marvel, most prominently The Gifted, which is pretty much inspired X-Men: The Last Stand. In fact, her audition script turned out to be pages from Whedon's Astonishing X-Men #5. Oof, hostile. Yeah, don't yuck with the Phoenix. Before Kelsey Grammer was cast as Beast, Jason Fleming was considered to play Beast, presumably when Matthew Vaughn was going to direct. Vaughn would later cast Fleming as Azazel in X-Men First Class. Yeah, like you. Yeah, it's like one of the reasons Brett Ratner was brought on as director was because he had experience of making a successful movie out of a rush production with the first Rush Hour movie. In fact, Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn only had 7 months to write the script. They bashed out the first 80 pages in just a week and then were horrified when this leaked onto the net, causing much fan consternation. Consternation? I need to look up the word consternation. Consternation. Feelings of anxiety or dismay, typically at something unexpected. Yep, consternation is definitely an appropriate word. Whoops. And to the actor's credit, many of the actors and actresses performed their own stunts. That's a good line. Angel's wings were initially too heavy for actor Ben Foster and were remade from foam. And fun fact, Ben Foster is actually scared of heights. I wish that Piotr was speaking with a Russian accent. But yeah, Kitty Pryde was named after an actual person, a former classmate of John Byrne. Upon the release of X-Men, reporters tracked down Pryde in Calgary to interview her about the film. She has now changed her name to K.D. Pryde and states that she appreciates the comics but wishes to be known as more than just a heroine's namesake. The comic book Pryde appears in the X-Men franchise, but is played by different actresses. So yeah, I already mentioned that. Sorry. But yeah, initially the ice skating scene with Bobby Drake and Kitty Pryde went on a few seconds longer, ending on them actually kissing while being spied on by Rogue. Although that would have added a layer to Rogue's speech later about wanting the ability to kiss someone, Brett Ratner nevertheless decided to cut that part out, primarily because he thought that then 18-year-old Elliot Page looks like a 12-year-old, as he puts it in the DVD commentary, making the whole thing vastly improper. But yeah, Ratner cast Page as Kitty Pryde after seeing Page in Hard Candy. Page initially turned down the role, but after Ratner personally called with the script, she finally agreed to do the role. But yeah, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh on Juggernaut's portrayal, because the Juggernaut is based on his appearance in the Ultimate X-Men comics, in which he's a natural mutant. Yeah. And that shot of with the X-Men Xavier School logo was later refeatured in Deadpool. Yeah. Sorry, my brain farted for a moment there. Oof. Oh, you should watch your mouth, Pyro. I like that he uses it sarcastically. Oh no, he's the better man. You're just an asshole, Pyro. When Bryan Singer dropped out of production, Hugh Jackman recommended Darren Aronofsky to replace him, having worked with Aronofsky in The Fountain. Joss Whedon turned it down to work on a Wonder Woman movie that went nowhere. Rob Bauman and Alex Proyas were considered for the job. Zack Snyder was approached, but he was committed to 300. Peter Berg was approached, but turned down the job as well. Yep, in later years, Elliot Page admitted to hating making the film due to director Brett Ratner's incessant homophobic bullying. Anna Paquin corroborated this. Because remember, Matthew Vaughn... remember, Brett Ratner is a piece of shit. I mean, yes, some of the films he's made are good, and Red Dragon is decent, but man, it's like he is such a piece of shit human being, and I can't and I wish that Hollywood permanently blacklisted him, but given the move with everything, of course he's returning for frickin' Rush Hour 4, if that film is even ever gonna happen. I mean, it seems very uncertain, but I'd rather not get into the behind the scenes drama of Rush Hour 4. But I do think it's interesting how it's like before doing X-Men 3, Ratner worked on Red Dragon, which is a remake of Manhunter, and Red Dragon is the first official appearance of Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter was first portrayed by Brian Cox, who played William Stryker in X-Men 2. Now, isn't that ironic? I mean, I think it's also kind of funny how Hannibal Lecter, the 4 live-action actors that have played Dr. Lecter, are notable for playing... have all played Marvel characters at some point. Hold on a moment. Yes. Yeah, it's like Brian Cox played Stryker, and Sir Anthony Hopkins, who played Hannibal Lecter in 3 films, played Odin. And the late Gaspard Ulliel played Anton Mogart, also known as the Midnight Man, in Moon Knight, and it was pretty much his a posthumous role for him. And Mads Mikkelsen, who played Hannibal in the eponymous TV series, played Caecilius on Doctor Strange. Now, it's kind of cool, you know? Also, rest in peace, Gaspard Ulliel. You didn't deserve to go out the way you did. Ouchie. Once again, healing factor, totally cool. And the CG for his healing factor does hold up 20 years later. And use it against him, bitch. And of course, Alex Proyas point blank refused to even consider directing the movie after Bryan Singer dropped out, having had a difficult time making iRobot for Fox. Also, a fun detail about the cure. The code for the cure is XM89248, which is a reference to Uncanny X-Men number 248, which was published in 1989, illustrated by Jim Lee. Oof, that's gotta hurt. It's like Spike made it a painful death for him as well. Now, the character Arclight was originally intended to be a character new in the comics named Stacy X. She was a mutant prostitute with the ability to control people by producing pheromones. This was originally part of Matthew Vaughn's production. And here's an interesting fact about Cyclops' sunglasses. His sunglasses are modified Oakley's Penny model, a limited edition sunglass with a custom tint created specifically for this movie. Also, Hank McCoy wears Oakley Y3 glasses specifically made to fit his character. But yeah, there was an unfilmed Danger Room sequence where Bobby and Kitty are training and are then supposedly blasted to pieces by Sentinels, only to sit up as projected skeletons as the team looks on. This is one of the first movies to feature the Army combat uniform, when the soldiers switched to it from their Woodland BDUs to guard the Alcatraz facility. If you look up the address for Xavier Schools for Gifted Youngsters, which is 1407 Gray Malkin Lane, Salem Center, Westchester County, New York, on Google Earth, you will find it is a real address. However, instead of a grand mansion, you'll find 2 large barns and some other farm structures. Smell if you're adamantium. That's actually good. This has good lines, I'll admit. But yeah, whereas in the comics, Dark Phoenix is reimagined as a destructive, deadly psychic alter ego, in the comics, it is a cosmic entity that has possessed Jean and other characters. Its adaptation as a dissociative personality disorder is more similar to comic book character David Haller / Legion, and I believe in the comics David Haller is Charles Xavier's son. Now, Hugh Jackman was paid $5 million, 10 times his salary for X-Men, the first film. And Grammer's casting as Beast is somewhat ironic. In Season 8 of Frasier, Episode 12, The Show Must Go Off, Frasier goes to a comic book convention to look for X-Men comics for his son. Being a snob and obviously dismissing comics as lowbrow and unintelligent, he felt that the comic books would contribute to the decline of his son's intellect. That is kind of funny. Yep, Philippe Rousselot was hired as cinematographer by director Matthew Vaughn and initially stayed on when Brett Ratner took over. Not long into shooting, however, Rousselot quit the project, later saying that signing on to shoot the movie was the biggest blunder he'd ever made in his career. Dante Spinotti, the cinematographer of 3 of Ratner's previous movies, was available, and he took over for most of the remaining filming. The last week of filming was done by camera operator J. Michael Muro, as Spinotti had to leave to begin work on the contract. Also, the automobile Professor Xavier and Eric Lensher use in the beginning is a Mercedes-Benz 600. This looks sneaky. Suspicious. Oh, yeah.
You think this is the real multiple man? Well, it is.
That actually is a pretty smart trick. Now, Fox hired Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn to write competing drafts of the screenplay, a fairly common practice for summer blockbusters. Penn had suffered through similar situations before in the first 2 X-Men movies, so he suggested to Kinberg that they should actually work together. Kinberg would, of course, serve as producer, occasional co-writer, and eventual director for later X-Men films. What a promotion, am I right? Now, the house used for Professor Charles Xavier's school is the same house used on Poltergeist: The Legacy television series. Also, X-Men The Last Stand is notable for being the first X-Men film in which Hugh Jackman received top billing. And this is the second X-Men movie to use Storm's given name, Ororo Munroe. She is introduced to Logan as Ororo Munroe, also called Storm, in the original X-Men film from 2000. In this film, Beast walks down the stairs and he calls down to her as Ororo. Also, fun fact, Ratner bought the motorcycle that James Marsden drives after filming was complete. And the late Sam Neill had been chosen to play Beast, although the actor was very interested in playing the character. He had to reject him due to scheduling problems. Because of the ridiculously tight shooting schedule, Ratner was sending the day's shots straight into post-production. Yep, Nick Fury, Miss Marvel, specifically Carol Danvers, and Marvel, aka Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel from Marvel Comics, not Shazam Captain Marvel, and the Inhuman Royal Family were intended to be in the film, but all of them were scrapped due to licensing rights with Marvel. I never tire of seeing the X-Jet just lift up from the school and then, whoom, fly away to save the day. Now, Brett Ratner invited composer John Powell to score the music for this movie, being a fan of Powell's work on The Bourne Identity. Before Ben Foster was cast, Jed Bernard and Nick Stahl were considered for the role of Warren Worthington III. Warren Worthington III. Why did I say Warren Worthington III? Anyway, yeah. Jed Bernard and Nick Stahl were considered. Mike Vogel was originally cast but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts with the 2006 Poseidon movie, and that's how Ben Foster got the role. Yep, and the kids that the video game the video game that the kids are playing in the car at the beginning of the bridge scene is Pitfall: The Last Expedition. And let me scroll up to talk about the most definitive scene of this film. Magneto lifts up the Golden Gate Bridge. I remember when Mad Magazine and Sergio Aragonés spoofed this. It was actually kind of funny. You don't say. There's a cliched scream sound effect. Yep. Now, the San Francisco authorities refused to allow the production permission to film on the Golden Gate Bridge. So this is a set piece. Just learned that. It would be one of many times in which people mess with the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, the sequence where Magneto rips the end of the Golden Gate Bridge and moves it towards Alcatraz was based on New X-Men number 147, where he did the same with Manhattan and Brooklyn Bridges. The Manhattan and Brooklyn Bridges. Yeah, I hope those guys are insured. According to visual effects supervisor John Bruno, about $35 million was spent on the Golden Gate sequence. This included constructing a full-scale section of the bridge that was about the size of a basketball court, around 94 feet, and then using the computer graphics imagery on the rest of the bridge and its background. And yeah, that $35 million was 1/6 of the budget. But yeah, like I said, John Powell's score really does elevate this scene. I remember just seeing it in theaters and being so shocked not knowing what the Golden Gate Bridge was. I'm a little disappointed that it's not actually the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm not sure if that's a pun or not. It's definitely dark humor. I'm sure this is what the January 6 rioters thought they looked like when raiding the Capitol. Yeah, good luck with that. Yep, the Worthington Labs building where Angel breaks free and flies over San Francisco Bay is actually the Sheraton Hotel Wall Center in Vancouver, Canada, and coincidentally, it's just across the street from St. Andrew's Wesley Church, which is the same church that is used in X2 where Jean and Storm find Nightcrawler. Also, Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry would collaborate with Juggernaut actor Vinnie Jones in the film Swordfish. Yep, guns with a mutant cure. It's actually very smart. Plastic guns. Now, Shabana Azmi and Taboo were considered for the role of Dr. Kavita Rao. And before Elliot Page was cast as Kitty Pryde, Eliza Dushku auditioned for the part. After Matthew Vaughn left for production of X-Men 3, he was going to direct Thor, but also left that film as well. Eventually, Vaughn went on to direct Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class. Hey, that rhymes! Also, fun fact, Elliot Page shares a birthday with Kelsey Grammer. These two also share a birthday with Jean Grey actress Sophie Turner. Also, Sean Ashmore, who's from Toronto, has experience with ice skating and so had no trouble with his skating scene with Elliot Page, who is from Nova Scotia, and had none, so they had to have lessons. Also, interestingly, Patrick Stewart and Kelsey Grammer shared the role of Ebenezer Scrooge in various adaptations of A Christmas Carol. And Kiefer Sutherland was a fan favorite to play Beast. I just can't imagine that, because Kelsey Grammer is so great as Beast. Now that's what I call an entrance. Yeah, actually, Colossus saying she took off is Colossus's only speaking role. Also, X-Men 3 was released in the US one day after Sir Ian McKellen's 67th birthday. But yeah, it's like X-Men 3 was a large quantity of films that Hugh Jackman did, starring in 6 movies in 2006. The Fountain, Flushed Away, which also features Sir Ian McKellen, Scoop, The Prestige, and Happy Feet. And Kinberg and Penn had sons born during the production of this movie. Yep. Oh, talk about a bitch fight. Also, I like that Colossus was played through makeup effects in this film. Oh, did I hear bowling pin sound effects? Oh yeah, this scene with Limb Guy. Okay, yeah, this is my favorite joke in the film. Sorry, I just that scene it's just freaking hilarious. Apparently, that's from a parody from '92, and it defines this portrayal of the character for better or for worse. Probably worse. They say nobody wins with a headbutt, but Juggernaut is an exception to that rule. Also, fun fact, the numbers on Gene's mailbox is 1769. Yeah, there's no use running. It's like, I don't think so. Oof. Famous last words. Oof, yeah, I definitely remember that death. Definitely brutal for a PG-13 film. Oh, you get the point. Now, Guillermo del Toro was approached to direct X-Men 3, but he declined in favor of Pan's Labyrinth, which is unironically one of the smartest decisions he ever made. I mean, because I love del Toro. He's one of my favorite directors. I just want to say that. After he did X-Men 3, Hugh Jackman signed on to produce and star in an action thriller titled FedEx, which was also in development at Fox, who bought the original spec script by Darius Skartapane in December 2005. Jackman was going to play a rookie FBI agent who has to bring a recently arrested criminal from Miami back into New York, but along the way, they are both chased by mysterious mercenaries who are after the criminals for some reason. Because it turns out they can't trust anyone else, two of them have to stick together to stay alive and get to New York. But this film was left unmade, and it's been said it was mainly due to Jackman being busy with other projects. I don't see why they can't revive the project. Yeah, famous last words. Have a nice trip. See you next fall. Ah, great save, Angel. But yeah, Grammer has gone on record saying that Beast is one of his favorite roles of his career, going so far as to do a last-minute secret reprisal cameo in X-Men Days of Future Past. Which is nice, you know? Look out! But yeah, I guess I'll save this fact for later. Yep, let's do it. Crappity crap. Yep, sorry, just doing a bit of fact screen capping. Aha. Also, one of the reasons why Rogue disappears to go take the mutant cure was because of Anna Paquin's limited availability. She was in the midst of shooting The Squid and the Whale at the same time as filming the movie. But apparently Fox had always planned to have Jean Grey kill off Cyclops. It was the studio's idea. Penn talked about the lack of Cyclops in this movie on the message boards of the now closed website, The Experts, in which he participated in Q&A with fans, and could only say to the fans, while the movie was being made, that if they expected to see more of Cyclops, that they were going to be disappointed. Penn would later say after the movie's release that he and co-writer Simon Kinberg fought with Fox to not kill Cyclops, but the studio insisted the character died to have a more emotional impact. The decision to kill off Cyclops received heavy backlash from fans and moviegoers, and fans still debate whether the character actually even died since his death wasn't shown on screen and neither Storm nor Wolverine bothered to search for him while they find Jean alone at Alkali Lake. Also, Anna Paquin and producer Laura Schuler-Donner were amongst the participants in the movie who were not happy about the idea of Rogue taking the mutant cure. I don't blame them. As originally scripted, the Golden Gate Bridge sequence was in the middle of the movie. Magneto was to have moved it to Alcatraz Island to free Mystique, as the facility would have been revived as a special mutant prison. The final battle was to take place in Washington, D.C., which was set to be home to Worthington Labs. Thus, Magneto's plan would have been twofold: destroy the cure and take control of the White House. However, when Brett Ratner signed on to direct, he decided the bridge sequence would create a more dramatic climax, if moved to the end, so the script was rewritten to have Alcatraz transformed into the Worthington Labs facility. I've heard of cold shoulder, but how about cold wrists? Oof, yeah, and originally there was, allegedly there might be a scene where, there would have been a scene where Pyro would have returned to the Xavier Mansion. Also, this is the first time we see the cannonball strike that Colossus and Wolverine are known for. Prepare for your comeuppance, Magneto. How do you like those apples, Mr. Lensher? Now, Magneto ending up a non-mutant human, and Wolverine's... How do you like it? But yeah, it's like Wolverine's snide comment of, "What are them?" is a tribute to the X-Men storyline House of M, which ended with Magneto rendered human, and Wolverine stating he deserves every second of his crap sapient life. Hold on, wait. Nah, I'd rather not do the 10 seconds ago. But yeah, now you're no longer one of us, you're human. Whap whap, although temporarily, spoiler. But yeah, Colossus was intended to have a much larger presence, including a fight scene with both Juggernaut and Magneto, who throws Colossus away when he armors up. Almost the entirety of his role is deleted, and he appears mostly as a background role for the entirety of the movie, with only one line of dialogue. But thankfully, the idea of Colossus fighting Juggernaut would later on be used for Deadpool 2, so I'm glad to know this idea wasn't abandoned. Oh look, you just pissed off Jean. Yep, talk about escalation. An early draft of the script leaked onto the internet in June 2005 during Matthew Vaughn's brief tenure as director. The script contained notable deleted scenes and characters, including a sequence in which Rogue and Beast break into Worthington Labs to further research the Cure Serum, lifted directly from Joss Whedon's Gifted storyline, and a sexual relationship between Storm and Wolverine. This draft also included the character of Cecilia Reyes, a mutant scientist and rival of Dr. Kavita Rao. Somewhat ironically, Shore Aghdashloo was originally cast as Reyes before the character was eliminated, and the actress recast as Rao instead. This version of the script also sparked a controversy surrounding the reduced screen time of Cyclops, Mystique, and Professor X. In order to combat negative buzz surrounding the movie, Brett Ratner ordered several major changes in editing, and shot several new scenes to leave the movie more open-ended, allowing potential for future sequels. Originally, Cyclops was to die on screen, murdered by Jean Grey. Professor X's death was meant to be definitive, as was the loss of Mystique's powers. Ratner re-edited Cyclops' scene to only apply his death, leaving the potential for the character to return in future sequels. And added the after-credits coda of Moira McTaggart discovering Xavier's mind transfer to a different body. Also scripted but not shot were scenes of Jean Grey's gravesite exploding in a fireball, implying her resurrection, and a scene of Mystique playing chess with Magneto, where she offers him a drug that will restore his powers. The filmmakers intended the death of Professor X to be a dramatic turning point. Kinberg and Penn were initially cautious of killing Xavier, but grew to like the idea, saying it paralleled the end of Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. To keep Xavier in the X-Men franchise, though, they wrote the post-credits scene where Dr. McTaggart discovers Charles' mind in the Coma Man's body. But yeah, I definitely remember this scene. It definitely defines the identity of the film as well. And once again, definitely one of the saving graces of this film is, Hugh Jackman and Famke Janssen's acting, and also John Powell's score. I think it might be one of my favorite scores of the film. I admit it. Oof, talk about a bad shaving incident. I'm starting to get emotional. I actually started crying when in theaters when I first watched Jean Grey's death. I was a kid, and it really did appear sad. Although I do think that The Last Stand could have benefited from being a two-part film. First part focusing on the Gifted storyline, and part two being the Dark Phoenix saga, becoming more epic and bombastic. Yeah, sorry. Just looking back on it. But yeah, interesting fact. The design of Cyclops and Jean Grey's tombstones is taken from the X-Men storyline Days of Future Past, where the X-Men's gravestones were in a similar deco, the X symbol with the member name below. Surprise, motherfucker. But yeah, 20th Century Fox Studios studio heads Tom Rothman and James Giannopoulos, sorry if I botched that name, debated on Rogue's final scenes. Since she took the cure, Rothman wanted her to passionately kiss Bobby Drake, and Giannopoulos wanted her to simply hold his hand. The two executives screened the movie for their daughters, and the studio's female marketing executives, and the hand-holding prevailed. Giannopoulos stated that the kissing was all about sex, and they didn't want that. And honestly, yeah, I agree with Anna Paquin and Laura Schuler Donner about Rogue taking the cure. She shouldn't have taken the cure. It makes better sense that she doesn't take the cure. Because she should just accept herself for who she is. Also, it does feel dumb that the cure was for nothing, because it almost feels like a temporary cure, which is dumb, you know? Sorry, still looking up facts. Also, well, here's an interesting fact about the. Oh, yep, there's Angel. He said apparently he did not. He said it was like being on a roller coaster. But man, Angel looks awesome. But yeah, this scene of Magneto playing chess by himself, and surprise, he suddenly has his powers back because it's all temporary, which means this whole fight was for nothing, in my opinion. Well, apparently Ian McKellen was filmed all this in London because he was busy working on a stage play. It also does. Also, the final scene with the chess moving is identical to the ending of Christine, with part of the compressed car moving. I didn't realize it was Magneto at first because I didn't recognize him without his helmet. Really shows what a dunce I was when I was 9. Okay, maybe I'm being a little harsh on myself. But also, yeah, this was originally the last film in the X-Men trilogy. And also, if you're watching this on Disney Plus, you can actually watch a post-credits scene. But yeah, 20th Century Fox originally intended this to be the final X-Men movie featuring any of the original cast, forming a trilogy, somewhat akin to the Star Wars film franchise, with possible spin-offs based on individual characters from the franchise. Late in post-production, the studio reversed this intent, and Brett Ratner re-edited and reshot scenes to make this movie more open-ended. After mixed critical and box office reception of X-Men Origins Wolverine, Fox made several unsuccessful attempts at developing a fourth movie before deciding to reboot the franchise with X-Men First Class and X-Men and later X-Men Days of Future Past, which used time travel to eliminate inconvenient elements of past continuity. Probably one of the smartest decisions they ever made. But eventually that would come to bite them in the ass later. And of course, I also didn't know when I first watched this in theaters that there was a post-credit scenes. And I didn't know this because I was so emotionally impacted by all of that. But I later on found out about this scene, this post-credit scene, when when my family rented X-Men The Last Stand on DVD. Didn't notice until now, and I didn't know that apparently the Coma Man was Charles's identical brother. Isn't that convenient? But yeah, I didn't know this. But it still surprises me that there was a post-credit scene. And of course, Moira McTaggart plays a much bigger role in the comics and on X-Men the Animated Series because she's one of Charles's on-again, off-again lovers. But yeah, you'll notice the skipped credits feature on Disney Plus. Quite convenient to skip through the credits. But yeah, X-Men The Last Stand, pretty much overshadowed by a controversial director. It's like you traded one controversial director for another controversial director. And I'll give X-Men 3 credit. It did pretty much take risks that normally other films wouldn't take. I mean, it really went the big way. And I guess X-Men The Last Stand, while it has a lot of controversial choices, I hate what they did to Cyclops and Juggernaut. I mean, I still have enough of a soft spot because it's one of those core memories I remember watching in theaters with my family. And I can't hate it too much, but I really wish Cyclops deserves so much better, and I do think The Last Stand could have benefited from being a 2-part finale, at least in my opinion. It's like call it X-Men The Last Stand Part 1, The Cure, X-Men The Last Stand Part 2, Dark Phoenix. It would have worked a lot better as that. But that's just my opinion, but anyway, that is my commentary of X-Men The Last Stand. Woof, what a doozy it was, and it took freaking forever for me to get it, but life happens. I'm just glad that I was able to get on with it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed my commentary of this film. Be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't have a good day. Have a great day.